video is who is the New York Ripper theory? So this is a follow-up to my discussion on who knew Dexter was the Bay Harbor Butcher. In this video, I got 13 characters. Who I think is most likely to be the New York Ripper, and the most popular theories I have seen around as a result. So I do want to add, it's probably more than likely a new character, but I just think it makes it more interesting to humor myself with these theories and kind of see which ones I agree with, which ones I think very unlikely. So let's begin. Now, the information we were given about the New York Ripper, Leon said, this situation I once played on the streets, it was once on the streets that I played on, a man who terrorized. Basically, it can be two things. Predator could mean one, it was him as a child, and this was as long as they were, or previously where he grew up, the Ripper started appearing in his neighborhood. It doesn't necessarily mean as a kid Predator the killer was around. The timeline's a bit messy, so you gotta factor in different things, but let's go from number 13 to 1. So number 13, Joey Quinn. Yeah, this is an actual theory. I think the only thing is he's from New York, and that's kind of it. I believe. I heard that somewhere. Joey Quinn. He's a cop. He's also a good guy. And I know he's not the most, righteous person. Like, he has messed up and he has done things. That's not very good, but, compared to, all these other people, it's just not likely Joey Quinn to be the killer. I think it's just very poorly set up. It would make no sense. The only way you could kind of make it work is if, he had a really downward spiral after Deborah. And even then, I don't think it still works. It just doesn't work with Joey's character. He just doesn't fit him at all. Because he was trying to expose Dexter, so then for him to become someone like Dexter, again, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And Angel was like a brother to him, so the fact that this character would have been in Miami, also suspicious, I think, and they never caught the New York Ripper, so the theory that, from my understanding, is Joey moved to Miami Metro, stopped the killing, and that was it. That's kind of the whole theory. To me, that makes no sense. But, yeah. To be honest, that's the whole theory. I'm afraid that's kind of it for number 13. At number 12, is a theory that I think is a bit more likely than Joey, but that's Claudette is the killer, the New York Ripper. And for this, I can kind of see it because, in the first episode, a lot of people didn't like her character. I kind of liked her towards the end. I think she kind of grew on me throughout the season. And Claudette, basically, as a character, she recognized these knots, but then, I guess anybody kind of can. She wasn't a bad character. I think an initial theory I saw was she was the twin of the Gemini killer, which I thought was an interesting take. If you were going to have her, and I initially actually thought throughout the season she was like Dexter, except she was a cop. Maybe not the same code as Dexter, but was similar in nature in that way. That Dexter is a serial killer at night, and basically in the day he's like a blood sport analyst. So the thing with Claudette is, for her, it just doesn't make sense. They haven't set it up good, I think, for this to work. For somebody that she's chasing, for her to be the killer, and that case she can never solve, and she's the suspect, doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, unless it was like a You situation where it was like Joe Goldberg, like from season 4, such as Each the Rich Killer, and it was like a Reese situation. maybe, but even then, I just think it's a bit far-fetched to have her as the killer. But I put her higher than Joey because I think she's a bit of a mysterious character. She's grown us in this season, and you could have it as a candidate, but the reason they're the first three are literally just unlikely to happen. I know I've got some people on here like Leon Prater and the Gemini Killer who are both dead but are on the list. But I will explain how I think they possibly could be the New York Ripper as well. At number 11, we have Olivia, who is the partner of Claudette. I put him a bit higher because I kind of like him. To be honest, I think he's kind of okay character. And I think for him to be... I put him a little bit higher than Claudette. I think he's more likely to be the New York Ripper. But for that to kind of happen, Claudette would have to overlook a lot of things, which it seems to be that she's very highly intelligent. So I just don't think it would really work. Also, you had Aaron Spencer, who was a brilliant antagonist. But Aaron Spencer was a captain in Miami Metro, and we've kind of already had that arc. So to have a character who was a police captain, okay, it's cool, but like we've kind of already had it. And my guess in Dexter is for this reveal, they want to take it in a completely different direction, something we've probably never seen before in the entire show. So Olivia, he's at number 11. I think it would be kind of interesting if he was the case, but he just misses out for 10 for me. So at number 10 we have Blessing. Now, I actually like Blessing. I think he's a good character. Taxi driver, I like his friendship with Dexter. Not really like once Dexter told his daughter about his childhood, Blessing was like, Dexter, how could you? You lost my trust, blah blah blah. That was kind of, for me, it makes sense why he would act like that. But at the same time, it's like Dexter was trying to referee the situation. He was trying to help Blessing out, so it wasn't intentional. And I think Blessing's supposed to be a representation on Vince Masuka and the Angel Batista role from the original series, as in a close friend to Dexter, somebody who looks out for him, somebody who he is close to. So Blessing took Dexter in, basically gave him his daughter's old apartment. And he's very mysterious, had that fallout with Dexter. That's kind of it. The only thing is that one episode. He hadn't appeared, like, after that, I believe. And, I mean, for Blessing, he did briefly appear at the very end of Resurrection when Dexter was talking about his connection. So to have Blessing being revealed, I just don't think it's been set up very well to have him as the main antagonist of the second season. And I also think while his backstory, him being a soldier, would have made sense, he was kind of forced, so I don't think he'd fit the nature of the New York Ripper. And for me, Blessing is higher than Olivia, because I do think as a character, he definitely would be higher than the Olivia, Claudette, and even Joey Quinn. But he's not quite, I would say, top 5 theories, as in more than likely the case. So at number 9, I have Brian Moser. Now, I love this character. On this tier list, apart from Leon Brader, he might actually be my favorite character on this list. Now, the thing is... Well, Joey Quinn as well. But the thing is, Brian Moser, I have him above these people for quite a bit of a reason. Because he did appear as a hallucination at the end of Season 1. The thing with Brian is... The theory suggests that he was in New York, he did killings, and then he eventually went to Miami to find Dexter. In Original Sin, we see Brian kill people in multiple different ways, as he is one of the main antagonists in a case that Harry is on. He's also the ice truck killer, and that's the thing I'm getting to. It wouldn't be that very satisfying. It would just be really cool for Dexter to know this information. It's like, oh, that's pretty cool. More backstory for Brian, but we don't have a confrontation. That's the problem. With Lessing, Olivia Claudette, and even Joey, you do have a confrontation compared to like these other characters who you don't really have a confrontation with. So Brian doesn't feel very satisfying. And so he is this low. Now I did put him higher than these because I think he is more likely in nature. If he was spared and Dexter didn't kill him, like if Brian got away, bro, Brian would be top 3. I think he would be top 3 if season 1 was a bit different and Brian wasn't killed. I believe he could have been the New York Ripper. But Brian's just always been that darker side of Dexter, where Harry is a code, Brian was a darker version of Dexter, and always tried to let Dexter be his true self. But apart from that, it's just not all I can say about Brian. He just doesn't, unfortunately, is in my opinion, not the New York Ripper. At number 8, I have the Gemini Killer. Now, I know a lot of people are saying, what, the Gemini Killer? So the Gemini Killer is actually one of my favorite killers in that season. I actually really like the killer. He's definitely up there with, like, in Prater's group. He's top 5, in my opinion. I thought it was quite interesting. Al, Lady Vengeance, Prater himself. That's kind of the ones I would say are the most interesting in my opinion. Lowell was okay. I actually quite liked it. I didn't mind Lowell. And then that's kind of it, to be honest. So, with the Gemini Killer, he was a twin. Now, obviously, we've seen that Dexter was pretty shocked when he found out that Gareth had a twin. We never knew Gareth's twin's name. But to have the Gemini Killer, and I'm going to say one of them, I'm going to just say Gareth for this. To have Gareth as the killer, I think would be pretty satisfying from a story aspect. Because, like, Gemini, Gareth said, oh, like, I'm the most wanted criminal in one of the most wanted criminals to Dexter. He said, you might be number 2 Dark Passenger, but I'm number 1. Implying that, like, Gemini was, like, pretty wanted by the police. Which means that, like, he was somehow evading them really smartly, implying to me that he was a pretty smart character. And he was a couple episode kill for Dexter. So he wasn't, like, a side character, like a Lowell, the tattoo guy, which is Lowell, I believe that's the nickname. Or he wasn't, like, even Lady Vengeance was, like, a couple episode kill. Not even, a couple episodes for Dexter to, like, arrest her. But the thing with Gemini, I think he is just a more like a candidate. And you could also write it as in, oh, there was actually 3 Gemini killers. This one just turned out to be the New York Ripper. You could do that, and I think there's a lot you could write with the Gemini killer. But you'd have to change his kill ritual. I guess it would kind of work because you could say, oh, he was just never involved with his brothers. Or the Gemini killer, I think Gemini would be interesting. Gareth for him to be a killer. Back on the topic, Gareth for him to be this character would be pretty cool, but he's dead, so there's no confrontation. So again, with the next few theories, they're dead. There's no confrontation with Dexter, and I think for the finale we want a confrontation. So that's Gareth at number 8. So number 7, and number 7 we have Leon Prater. Now, when I was watching the season, I initially thought he has to be the New Yorker, even him or Al. Now, I didn't put Al on the list because that one line he says in the season where I don't like blood. And the Ripper seems to be quite bloody, so it has to be somebody he's okay with getting the hands dirty. And Prater, I quite like his character. I love Leon Prater. I think he's one of the best villains in Dexter. Top 5 for me. Top 5, 100%. So this character was so good. But the reason he's here is Leon has so much connections that could help him. Like, he can cover his tracks. He's always stalking other killers. Leon has, like, connections and ways that he can get around this. And the theory suggests after his idol died, he wanted an urge. And so became the New York Ripper. Now, he did kill Angel Batista, but I always suspected, and there's no proof of this, but I've always suspected Leon wasn't quite just a fan. I think, in my opinion, he might have also been a killer. A bit like Dexter. He may have had a part passenger, he may have been very calm about it. And, I know Charlie got the hit on Lady Vengeance, but Leon knew about it. So, he knew about that. And I think for him to be that character, Charlie just kind of up and left him. And in the end of season 1, Prater, they didn't know where he was, but they left the files. They set it up in a way where you could write it in that Leon is the obvious killer. Now, Don Fragment, the file, we see a brief file, Don Fragment. And Leon could just use an alias, similar to all these characters on this list. We have got an official name for the New York Ripper, but my argument for that is Dexter uses aliases all the time. Like, he used Patrick Bateman in Original Sin, Kyle Butler in Season 4 of Trinity, most notably, and Brian Moser used Rudy Cooper. Like, characters use aliases all the time, so it's not out of the question for Leon to do the same thing here. And I'm not talking about his killer name, I'm talking about, like, as like a alias to protect identity. This makes sense. And I think Leon specifically wanted that. So, at number 6. So, number 6, we have Cooper, which was the guy who killed Leon Prater's parents. Now, he is a bit higher than Prater because it was only confirmed off screen that he was killed. So, you could write it in a way where he survives. And I think that would be interesting if we brought back Cooper, who knew Leon Prater, and Dexter killed him. That would be somewhat interesting because Dexter wouldn't really know this character because he's been behind bars. He's been a character who has probably wanted his revenge against Leon, but him and Leon did become friends. That could have changed by season 2. Maybe Leon's backstory might have been more discovered. Maybe they just finished with the character in season 1. The thing with Cooper, I just don't think... It's very likely. I think he is executed. I think they were truthful. I think for him to be the Ripper, again, to me, it makes no sense. Dexter, I feel like, has to kind of have a connection. Or it wants a vengeance against Dexter. This would have to be a character. Cooper's one of the few characters in the season who actually has nothing to do with Dexter. Similar to Keith, when Charlie kills him, they have nothing to do with Dexter, to be honest. They don't even meet Dexter. We don't really get that with many characters because most of them actually do meet him eventually. So, that's kind of it for Mr. Cooper, and not a lot to be said there, but I think him to be the Ripper would be kind of interesting. I did put him higher because there's possibilities you could write in. There's like so many different things you could factor with him. He could have gave information to Leon, which also could have supported the Leon theory. And so we are now on to number 5. So at number 5, I have Sam, Blessing's son-in-law. And there's a couple of things to suggest this is the case. So the first piece of evidence is the voice in the episode where Claudette plays the New York Ripper's voice. Sounds very similar to Sam's voice. That's pretty valid, but at the same time, you could just write it as in, there's like audio. You gotta change the audio. Like, superheroes do it all the time as well. Like Batman, for example, he changes his voice. Arrow in the TV show changes his voice. So I'm not quite sure if that's quite valid. But Sam's just a very mysterious character, we know nothing about him. And for him to be the Ripper just kind of feels random, in my opinion. So I just feel like it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, if I'm being honest. But that's just kind of me. I didn't run number 4. Number 4, we have Gigi, aka Harrison's girlfriend. So yes, Gigi is at number 4 on the tier list. So Gigi and Harrison are a couple, basically, at this point. And she was kind of introduced when in the same episode with we found out Ripper's voice. And the reason she's higher is she's quite developed. And I feel like for her to be the Ripper would kind of throw Harrison off, to be honest. Because it'd be very similar to Lila West and Dexter. So having Harrison coming to the realization that she is a killer, I think would put him in a very tough situation. Because Dexter, his father, kills bad people. So to have his girlfriend do the same thing, he has to talk to Dexter about it. And Dexter's like, okay, well, I have to go after her because she fits the code. Or, if Harrison convinces Dexter to go, I don't know, you just kind of write anything. I feel like Gigi's just interesting pick, in my opinion. And I just really like the fact that this theory could work. And she's alive, which is the other thing. She might not even be important in season 2, but I feel like out of these people, she's one of the higher candidates that I would have to put. And now we're at number 3. So we got 3 characters to pick, and I have to say, these 3 theories are the ones I agree with the most. So number 3, Cody. Yes, Dexter's kid, Cody, his son, his stepson. I actually quite like Cody, not gonna lie. I think Astro and Cody are pretty cool. We did not see him in Resurrection at all. Or maybe he's not been mentioned. He's not been seen since season 7. Dexter has not mentioned him since season 7. And Harrison's never really asked about his siblings. I think it's kind of odd. Now, Harrison was really young. Don't get me wrong, he was pretty young when his siblings, when he left his siblings, but he was a child, so I think he would have remembered them on some level. Like, Dex, do I have any siblings? Or Harrison could at least ask Dexter, have I got, other family? To me, it's never made sense to why Aster and Cody have just never tried to take Harrison in once Hannah died or stuff like that, but that's another conversation of the day. The point is, Cody is going to be a killer, so for this to work, having Dexter, who Cody once saw as a father figure, works pretty well. And here's the thing. I think in the novels, Cody and Aster has a very similar thing, but Cody, the reason it works is because Dexter would have seen his failure in Cody, that he wasn't there for him when he needed him. So having Cody being the New York Ripper would be quite interesting, in my opinion. I'm not quite sure how we would get to New York. But Aster and Cody would be adults at this point, because Harrison is, I think he's about a teenager, maybe young adult. But they would be adults by this point. Catherine and Cody would be fully grown up. They'd have their own lives, maybe have their own children as well. And for Cody, the Rita trauma would 100% be the reason why he is the way he is. Not so much, and Dexter, not so much Paul, because I don't think it would really affect him. But, when we look at season 4, for example, when 5, so for example, the earliest season 5, when Dexter's racing Aster and Cody, Cody's the one who's trying to stop the fighting between Aster and Dexter. But is it possible that Cody had a dark passenger and did something, but his grandparents either looked the other way or Cody just never said anything? Now, Aster could have found out about this, and maybe she knows, like, okay, Aster may be the character to help bring down Cody. And she might know, but for this, I just think it's kind of cool. Could Dexter kill Cody? I don't know. I really don't think so. I really think it would be a very, not only mental challenge, physical challenge, but emotional challenge for Dexter. Because apart from Wild West, we never really have a character like that again. To have that in Season 2, it would crush Dexter. He would be 100% devastated. Harry would probably also inside him feel conflicted. It's like, he's your family. You can't really do that to your family, bro. You can't really do that to him, Dexter. And then Dexter will go, but I've killed Brian before. He was my family. And Harry's like, yeah, but, like, this kid, you were, like, his father figure. So I think it would be very interesting to have Cody as the New York Ripper. And I definitely think you could write it as in Cody and Astro could just meet Dexter. Like, Cody maybe knew what Dexter was alive or something like that. I don't know, just it would be cool to have Cody revealed as, like, this twisted character who we, like, saw in season, like, 6 or 7. And, like, season 1 where he's, like, this innocent kid to being, like, a killer would be crazy. So I feel like he definitely could fit the profile. I'm kind of hoping he's not the killer, actually, because I do like the character, and I just think for Dexter, it would crush him completely, and I'm not quite sure if Dexter could do it, and if it would work in universe. But just having him reunite with Dexter and Aster reunite with Dexter as well would work. So let's see what happens. At number 2, we have Jonah, the Trinity Killer's son. Now, there's a few things I want to consider with Jonah, and here we go. So, the hook that was shown in Prater's closet in his trophy collection, Jonah, first of all, in Season 6, Episode 7, the episode Nebraska, when Dexter is in the shop, Jonah is seen with a hook very similar to the one in Resurrection. This tool he uses in Season 6, Episode 7, he first is shown with some guy that he's working with, or it's a customer, it's one of them, but anyway, I can't quite remember, but the point is, he was working with somebody, and he seemed to know how to use it, he seemed to know what to do with it, and then he admitted to killing his mom to protect his sister, which fit the code to Dexter. The same crowbar that was shown on Prater's cabinet, Jonah tried to use to kill Dexter. And I think Jonah's the most popular theory when it comes to characters who could be the New York Ripper. So to have Jonah as this character, I think it'd be pretty cool, because, like, Dexter, you don't really see old characters returning. So having Jonah, who was just out there somewhere in Dexter, to come back would be interesting, in my opinion. But he just about misses number 1 for me. So at number 1, Charlie Brown, or Charlotte. So Dexter found a file of Charlotte, and she was the bodyguard of Prater. The thing is, I kind of think she works as the New York Ripper, because she hunts down her victims. She knows everything about people. She knows how to kill. She knows how to, like, hunt people. She's a very highly trained character. She guarded Prater for, like, years. She killed Lady Vengeance. which is something that causes her fallout with Leon. And I just feel like as a character, Charlie kind of works really well. I think she's a character. She left with her mom at the end of season 1, and we don't really see her appear after that. I actually I love her character in that season. I actually think Charlie is one of my favorite characters in that season. And I feel like she's the only kind of main antagonist because I think Angel, Charlie, and Leon were the main three antagonists of that season. She's the only main character to probably survive Dexter and just leave. She didn't get killed by him. And the thing is, you've set Charlie up in a way where you could bring her back. I think that's the craziest thing. You could bring her back as a main antagonist. Similar to Al, you could bring her back as a main antagonist or a couple episode kill. I'm leaning more towards her being a main antagonist because I think for her to be just a couple episode kill, bit disrespectful, I think, just to be a one and done. Just because I feel like how capable she is, to her to be a one and done, really to me makes no sense. So she never killed Harrison as well. I think Charlie to be the New York Ripper would be a genius. Because Leon, he has files of people, and we could take it a step further. Charlie may have known that Leon was stalking her. There's just a few things here and there that doesn't quite fit when it comes to Charlie. Because Don Framett is a guy. But, there's a few things here and there, and I feel like Charlie could work 100%. But that is it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Did you agree with my tier list? Or was I wrong? Now, I might put Jonah here just because he is the most lucky candidate, but I think Charlie's my favorite one. I think by far Charlie does need to. I'm hoping she's the New York Ripper, but we'll find out in season 2. Peace and farewell.